What's up, everyone? I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
And you are listening to Liquid Carnage. My friend, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm a man now, dude. I'm officially a man.
Did you finally grow a pube? I don't know what that means.
No, I actually did manual labor outside of the Phoenix house on Saturday and the Williams house on Sunday, and I worked so hard that I have blisters on my hands.
Ooh, look at you go.
Yep, so I'm a man now. I'm a man.
You are fancy as fuck.
Yeah, see, I'm a desk jockey my whole life, so these hands are like soft, sweet pillows. And when you get out there and you man up and you get something moving or you mow a lawn or something, you feel like you've done something.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
You know what? And as our EP will always tell you, once you start measuring out how much your time is worth versus what it costs to pay someone to do some of those jobs, you just farm them out.
Yeah, well, and we will probably farm out the yard work up in Williams, but we had to get it done before we headed off on vacation this week. So, we had to get it done. So we went up there on a Sunday. I mowed, I moved things. I picked up garbage. I mean, I did everything. I was the man.
That's good, man. You know what I did?
What'd you do, buddy?
This is the first time in probably 6 weeks where I had nowhere to be and nothing to do. So I just took it easy all weekend. We had a bit of a massive windstorm last week, so I live across from an open field, so the corner of my house turns into Tumbleweed Alley.
Uh-oh.
I unfortunately have a neighbor now that is one of those neighbors.
Oh, gosh.
Who knocks on my door every afternoon informing me I have the tumbleweeds. And I had to flat out tell her this is going to take a couple weeks to get rid of because I can only put so many in my trash can, break them down, and still have room for my actual trash.
I don't think that that's a good enough answer for someone like your neighbor.
No, it's not, but she's going to have to deal with it because that's what I left it. I actually shut the door on her the other day. It's like, yeah, I'm working on it, shut the door and walked away.
What?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, and if anyone asks, man, I was just mourning over the submarine.
Oh, God. Yeah, we recorded before we knew the truth. Oh, my God. It just broke my heart. I was so hopeful that maybe, and then to find out, no, they were gone the day they went down. It just like, man.
Let me ask you a question on that because that sparked a lot of good conversation that we probably could have had on here. So, honestly, the way that it happened, it sounded like it was the most humane. It imploded within milliseconds. They were gone. They were destroyed. It's terrible, but let's be real. If they were going to go, that is the best possible case scenario in this scenario. Because had they got stuck at the bottom, there's no way they could have been rescued. Nothing goes down that far that can rescue them. They would have either frozen to death or suffocated or both, which is a terrible way to go. I mean, I think that from a humanity standpoint, humanely, this was probably the best case scenario for a failure. And I don't know if that sounds bad to say it like that, but does that make sense?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. There are a couple things that I would just add to that discussion. The first thing is any of those people that would have wanted to do a ceremony for the death of a loved one will not get that satisfaction. They won't have a burial. They won't have, a service, cremate. They won't have any of that. So if that's for some people, that's an important thing to be able to have a service, with their loved one there. That part won't be able to happen. The second thing is that at least if they had sunk to the bottom, they might have had a hope to hold on to that maybe they would be found. They didn't even get that hope. Because, I mean, my thought is that if you pass out, you're going to pass out and just not wake up. So it's not like you're just going to, immediately stop breathing and suffocate. You're going to be ingesting carbon dioxide, and you'll basically just fall asleep. You won't. So it would have been I shouldn't say that. I think it would have been a peaceful death had they just run out of oxygen at some point, and it just would have, My thing is that you're right. I don't even think that millisecond. The only thing that might have happened is if it started breaking, they heard creaks and it started to break apart as they were going. That would have been
So
the only part that would have been like, oh shit.
yeah, there are so many as the story comes out on this. There are so many things that make me go, ooh, not in a million years. First off, I'm claustrophobic as it is. You could not put me in that and make me feel okay about it.
Uh, yeah. Okay.
Especially with no way out because they
Yeah.
were locked in from the outside with a hand wrench.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the first thing, and why don't you list the things that that threw it off for you, and then I can add on to that.
Okay, well, first off, $30 gaming controller to operate the damn thing.
That's second off. Yeah.
Um, really, for such a small place, I feel like you could have put a hanging plant in there to produce extra oxygen. It sounds dickish in hindsight, but I mean, let's be real. And you're putting 5 people in a car the size of a minivan, and a submersible the size of a minivan, and asking them to sit Indian style. I'm not sure you can say that. Is it crisscross applesauce? However that goes, whatever the
I'm
politically
okay with
correct
you
way to
using
say
the
it
term.
is.
I don't know if someone would necessarily take offense to it, but I will be okay if you want to call it crisscross applesauce.
But it's just things like that make you go, oh, this is not okay. And I read, all the different scenarios, and one of them was like, if you had carbon alloy for the body, you had titanium mixed in there, which they don't exactly meld together easily, and then you had plexiglass. So you had 3 different uh, pieces of material that you have to combine together and make leak proof that goes 2.5 miles deep with all that water pressure. And even a pinhole leak, they said if it just misted seawater in there, it would have accumulated, it would have shorted everything out. They wouldn't have been able to stop it, and it would have eventually it had all the redundancies and it gone to the surface. That water would have eventually caught up to them and made them heavy enough it would have sunk to the bottom again.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah,
So there's
I
just
didn't
so
know
many
all that.
horrific things.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback that, I was totally with you. As soon as, they say, "Hey, Jason, you want to take a trip down to see the Titanic?" Okay, what are we going in? This.
Like
No,
hard
absolutely
pass.
not. No, we're not. I'm not doing that. No, no, no. I have a tough enough time. I would have a tough enough time going in something that was made by the military for the specific purpose of going down to the bottom of the ocean to see the Titanic. I would have hesitations, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't do good with claustrophobia. That that room that they were in looked very uncomfortable. I mean, you
Yeah.
would think that they would, if you're going to be paying that much money to take someone down there, at least give them a seat. At least give
Yeah.
them something.
Yeah.
Um, I'm totally with you on that.
And to Ocean Gate's credit, I guess if there's any credit here, they're the CEO that passed, the designer of the ship. He had an aerospace engineering degree from Harvard. He has worked on a lot of aircraft and submersibles over the years, so he was experienced in what he was designing, in theory. But without any kind of safety ratings or anything, I'm like, there's no way, man. I could not have done this. I would not have done that, and I feel terrible for the lives that are lost. I think it was a terrible way to go. I just, man.
Well,
I, I
here's the other thing that I keep in mind too. They've been operating to these tours down to the Titanic since 2013. So it wasn't like this was the first time.
well, I think it's like 2019. They said from the news report I saw.
Okay, well, I guess what I mean is this wasn't the first time this submarine
No.
went down to the Titanic. So it wasn't even. It's kind of like anything. Like the Challenger was the same thing. It had gone up into space hundreds of times. It only
Yeah.
takes one failure to make a total,
And that was
catastrophe.
the interesting because CBS Morning on Sunday had a whole deal on it where they interviewed the team last year and they kind of replayed that interview and built off of that, and they talked about how all the redundancy they had for safety checks where if even one thing looked off, they canceled it. They did not try to dive. They called the whole thing off, and that could be as something as awkward as or as little as the skate that the submersible was on that they got put in the water on. If it looked off, they scrapped the whole mission. So out of like 50 missions over the last 4 years, only 12 have made it down to the Titanic.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I know that one of the passengers was a scientist who'd been down to the Titanic before.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm assuming that this was not the first time this trip happened.
No, no. It sounds like it's happened quite a bit.
What do you think? I mean, I know we talked pre-production on something, but I would love to keep going on this if you don't mind.
That's fine. That's
What do
fine.
you think the allure is of this exotic tourism, I call it, where people are willing to pay absorbent amount of money to either go up or down to areas of the earth or the sky, the space, to for an hour or whatever?
It is. I believe it's human nature to want to explore. And they say we've only really explored 5% of our ocean. Well, when 70% of our planet is water and ocean, and we've only explored 5% of that, explorers want to see, and I get that. I have a very big problem with them visiting a gravesite in the Titanic to do that. I feel like that should be left alone. That was a terrible incident on its own, and we even 110 years later, 111 years later, we don't need to go back and revisit it. Like it just needs to be left there, and it's a memorial. You don't have to, and especially more so now with this submarine debris scattered with it. It's just not. It's not something people should actively seek out to go explore.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem odd that the push to go see it has come more and more and more recently. I wonder too if didn't they say that there was a possibility that the boat is starting to basically disintegrate down there, and that it may not be available to people, within the next 50 years, let's say.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard that for the last 25 or 30 years, and that's what happens though. I mean, that's fine. That doesn't mean you go and you take people down to it to go explore and check out the ballroom and all these other weird ass things, especially in what amounts to a submersible craft that I'm not sure I'd take that to the bottom of Lake Mead at 25 feet, let alone 2,500 feet to 2.5 miles.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like I remember they were going over because as they were playing all these, there was a newscaster who actually took the trip on the boat and as part of a news story, and he had to sign the waivers, and the waivers flat out said 8 times there's a strong possibility you will die or be injured on this.
Yeah.
I mean, so because I was thinking, oh my gosh, are they going to get sued? Or they, and yet the waivers that they signed were flat out, hey, it's very possible you are going to die doing this.
Yeah.
Doing this. So
gets me on this though.
Yeah. So, I mean, so these people knew kind of what they were getting into. And I don't know. Cause I feel the same way about the space capsules that go up into the, to space, like Bezos and, the guy who's, Branson. Yeah. It's like, I get it. You guys feel comfortable going up, but man, I mean, like Jeff Bezos, what experience does this man have to say to prove that, hey, this space flight is really safe?
No, I know. I get it.
I mean, I don't, someone I was talking to was talking about, this tragedy, and they said, the problem is there's enough thrill seekers out there that I bet this will not deter another company starting up to building a better submarine, and people would pay good money to go down and see the Titanic.
But that's the thing though. Okay, fine. If they build a better submarine, and this is a submersible, not a submarine. There's a difference. A submarine.
What is the difference? What is the
A
difference?
submersible goes up and down. A submarine can go forward and backward, up and down.
Oh, well, okay.
That's why this thing had to be carted out there and dropped and raised back up and picked up. A submarine could do it all on its own.
I got it. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But and I appreciate that that's the way the world's going in space. Like they want to colonize the moon and Mars. Conspiracy theories be damned, fine, whatever. They have to start figuring out commercialization of rocket propulsion with in aerospace and all that. And I get the same with the underwater adventures. We've been fascinated with it since 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But that goes back to the age-old rule of just because you can does not mean you should.
Yeah, I think you said something that it kind of got me thinking that maybe the Titanic is one of those things that you just shouldn't.
Yeah, but okay, so now this is going to start pushing the envelope a little bit further, and we're going to go away from the Titanic. Let's talk about the Mariana Trench. The deepest chasm in the ocean that we know of so far.
Okay.
How long before someone says, all right, well, let's do a diving expedition, a commercial diving expedition down the Mariana Trench?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that there are people that will want to do that.
Yeah.
I
am
don't
not one of those
understand it,
people.
but yeah, there'll be people that want to do that. I mean, is the Titanic though something similar like the Bermuda Triangle? They can't really understand why. I mean, it took 3.5 days for them with all the equipment that Canada and the United States and France could provide to find it, right? The find the wreckage. And these are trained professionals in this specialty, and they couldn't find it because it was so deep down there. Maybe you're right. Maybe the Titanic isn't something that it's holy. It gets left alone.
Well, it goes back to, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And like you said, had that thing sunk and they'd been stuck at the bottom, okay, we don't have anything that can raise them. I mean, there is no protocol that they have that would allow them to bring that back up. Unless they're going to start attaching like a 3.5 mile steel cable that stays attached to the boat, and they can bring it back up like that regardless. With more sensors.
Yeah, they were talking about this, and they said that they had the record number of people try to climb Mount Everest this year, and the record number of people dying trying to climb Mount Everest. So, there are certain things that are just mind-boggling to think that even as strong as we've come, as far as we've come, and as all the technology and everything that. There's still something about Mother Nature, Earth, whatever. There are just some things that you're going to lose to. You're going to lose.
And I appreciate on so many levels that we have explorers that want to push the envelopes and see the things and do the things, but that's a gravesite. At the end of the day, that is a gravesite. It's a historical monument. I get it, but that needs to be left alone. That needs to be just honored in peace and quiet. That's why there's a plaque there that reminds people of that. And I think it's silly that we have a plaque there reminding people it's a memorial of sorts, and we still have to send people down there at $250,000 a pop. Yeah. Now, if you're writing a check for $250,000 a pop to do that, there's better ways to spend that money. If I had that kind of money, I can guarantee you I would not be spending it on that. I would be on a resort somewhere in Bora Bora.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. You make an interesting point though about grave sites, because we were in New Orleans and we were walking in a grave site of people who had died. What is the difference in your mind between doing a tour of a grave site in New Orleans or any city, but New Orleans especially, and a grave site of the Titanic?
There's a difference between a cemetery where people have passed and they're taken to be buried versus a place where there is a mass death like the Titanic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, the cemetery we went to, there was like 700 people there. So there was a lot of people.
But they didn't go there and drop dead. They didn't
die there, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's someone put their body there knowing full well what it was.
Yeah.
The Titanic is a different story altogether.
Yeah, we had a tragedy on 9/11, and they built a new tower there and a monument to memorialize the people that died there. And that was specifically created to give the survivors and the people who live on the opportunity to cherish the lives that were lost and to remember them. We've never done that with the Titanic. We've never put, if they wanted to do that, then up until 35 years ago, no one had even been down there to see it.
Well, that's the thing, though. We're talking about an accident, then the ship sank, versus a terrorist act. So, again, two very different things.
Right.
But also, one is 4.5 hours away in the middle of the ocean, probably farther away than that, like 400 miles or something like that. But the other happened on land, so it's much easier to get to,
One of the commentators that I was watching a news story brought up an interesting concept that now we have the Titanic and this tragedy where humans tried to use their hubris to outwit nature. And once again, you had the Titanic, which was unsinkable, right? It couldn't be sunk. It was a perfect ship, and they proved that wasn't possible. And then you have this where it's like, oh, this is no problem. I've made it, I've designed it, and Mother Nature said, no, I got you. I'll remind you that you're still part of my planet.
Well, I don't think anyone sat out with this submersible and said it was a perfect machine. In fact, I think one of their engineers was fired for trying to blow the whistle on safety and quality of design and construction a few years back. So I think it comes down to it's hubris from the organization and from the pilot and the people on it thinking they're going to be okay. If we were going to go off and do something, and the release I had to sign mentioned I could die 3 or 4 times in it, I would have to take a long, hard look at Janice and say, is this something we really want to do?
Oh, Scott, as soon as I looked on the inside of that tube, no way.
Like, I'm out.
I mean, no, that's not going to happen. I mean, that's not going to happen. So I wouldn't even have to look over the contract because I would have said, oh, we're going in that. Yeah, no, that won't.
Yeah, hard pass.
Yeah, I'm good.
Where's the bathroom? Oh, there's not? Yeah, okay.
If you had to, as we start to wrap up, if you had to picture one exotic sport or some exotic touristy thing that you feel like, I think I would do that. Where's your threshold? Like, where's the threshold to say, okay, I might do that, but I wouldn't go further?
It would probably have to be some kind of beach volleyball tournament on some exotic islands in Bora Bora.
That's exotic.
Tahiti. I'd be happy to referee those matches. Something like that.
Okay.
I like a good adventure. But I'm also smart enough to know that, I don't need to be Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I don't need to be the people out there exploring new frontiers. That's not who I am. And I respect those people that are like that. And I encourage them to never stop, never stopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is not my bag.
So base jumping?
Nope.
Skydiving?
Absolutely not.
Bungee jumping?
Hard pass.
Would you walk over fire coals?
Yes.
Okay. I wouldn't do that either.
I would do that.
Oh man, you've already passed me. I'm trying to think of things that, like, it's so weird because I was more than willing to go ziplining and I was a good 50, 100 feet off the ground and I had no problem with that.
See, and that's the problem that would get me on ziplining. It's the heights that might not kill me, but they would only maim me.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Yeah.
But also I don't have a reason to want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah, I have no. How about kayaking?
I've been kayaking.
Okay, so that's not too scary.
No.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I've seen people die in kayaking and rafting accidents.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's calculated risks, and sometimes shit happens. And if that's your way to go, that's your way to go. And your family and friends have a cool story about how you went. If that's the way you want to go.
I can't understand the kids that hang on a building and take a selfie of themselves.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I don't understand what the allure is of that. And now don't get me wrong, we usually see it and nothing happens, but every once in a while something bad happens.
Yeah, what if a wind gust came, knocked you loose?
Oh, not to mention the fact, just think, you drop off of a 100-story building someone underneath at the very bottom is going to see something bad, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even if they're not hit, they're going to see a body disintegrate into the size of a Rubik's Cube. That can't be good. That can't be good.
No, it really can't. And I appreciate the side of human nature that's curiosity. I think we should all be curious. I think we should all ask questions. I think we should all seek to learn and understand. How you do it is up to you. And I think that is the moral of the story as we wrap up today's show. It's, exploring and seeking to understand and seeing things the way you want to are amazing in this life. And I think everybody should take the opportunity to do it as they get those opportunities. But you're right, Mother Nature finds a way. And we can't be so cocky as a species to where we can build a makeshift submersible. I don't want to say makeshift. That's not bad. I mean, clearly this thing worked 99% of the time.
Yeah, I mean.
But, it just takes one time. 50 no's and yes is still a yes. This is one of those times where it was a yes. This is not going to work.
I do hope that they didn't suffer. I really truly hope that, and you're right, it probably happened so quickly that they were gone immediate. I mean, it was done before they even had a chance to even realize, like you said, a millisecond, right? It was done. I think it was interesting too. Did you hear that part of the story that the Navy heard what they thought was an implosion on Sunday?
Yeah.
But they didn't say anything because they wanted to give rescue crews the hope that maybe there was something, but they had heard through whatever network they have underneath the water that there was an explosion of some sort.
Which is crazy in its own right that there would be an explosion with that. It's kind of like in space. Like if there's no fire in space, would there'd be no fire down there either? It'd just be the enormous crushing of the alloys and all that together,
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it would be like in a minor version of crushing a Coke can or something. You hear you'd hear something like that, and you'd say, "Oh, something just happened."
Yeah.
Ugh, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, hey, we had a topic all worked up for today, but you brought that up, and I thought, oh my gosh, I totally forgot that we didn't record. The last time we recorded that had not been uncovered yet, so this worked out. This worked out okay. Now we have one in the chamber for the next week.
Yes, we got a show for next week now too. So check that one out. Check that one out too. It'll be cool. But as we wrap up today's show, is there something you would do to push the envelope for exploring? We want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have fun things to explore in the Denver metro area, I will be going up to see our EP there in a few weeks. Shoot him the tips at liquid_EP on Twitter and the Instagram.
That just came up. There was a news story on the day we're recording. Guy celebrating his 70th birthday in Colorado went on a driving course to race one of those fast cars, and he lost control of the car and died in the accident.
Yeah, no thanks.
Celebrating his 70th birthday. So, maybe as we think we're just, like, once again, our hubris thinks, oh, nothing bad can happen to us. We'll be fine. And sure enough, he was celebrating his 70th birthday on Sunday, and he was driving one of those fast car experiences where you can drive a fast car around a track, and he lost control of the car and crashed, and he died.
That sucks, man.
I know, but at least he did it on his birthday. What a way to go, right?
Right. Oh, God, terrible. That's terrible.
I know.
You never said, like, is there any extreme sport you would do? We have a minute left.
Extreme sports. Okay, real quick. I wouldn't skydive. I'm not a big free base jumping or, base jumping or anything like that. I might drive in a fast car. But I wouldn't drive. I want to be the passenger. So I would only do it if someone, I wouldn't do it myself. I have no interest in going in space. I have no interest in jumping out of a plane. Obviously, I have no interest. I mean, I have a tough time with snorkeling.
That's fair.
I just don't I'll do it for a little bit and then it's like, I'm okay. Like I would scuba dive. I'm not a scuba diver.
So what I'm hearing is, as we last closing seconds, our idea of extreme sports is drinking whiskey in dive bars in bad neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think my worst thing would be drinking whiskey in the Maldives when you're basically in the water, and the fear that I might drown. That would be about as risky as I'd take.
My friend, I will accompany you on that risk-taking mission.
That sounds good, buddy. I love it. I love it.
That being said, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never